Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar today. We have a special guest speaker that we'll share with you in just a moment. But before we get into everything, I thought I would just share some contact info and a little bit of instruction. If you are new to Lifetime and we've never met before, then feel free to reach out. Of course, you can pipe in with your questions live on our webinar tonight. But we'd love to talk with you one-on-one. If you don't already have a coordinator, it's easy to get assigned to a coordinator. Just reach out. You can either chat with us through our website or you can email us. You can actually find all of our contact information at lifetimeadoption.com, or we have a 24/7 adoption assistance line at 1-800-923-6784, and that is a 24/7 hotline. We also are very active on Facebook, so if you are not already with us, that's a great way to become a part of the community and at least observe some conversations or even join in on some conversations. That's at facebook.com/open.adoption. But certainly if you have some questions that are not answered this evening, we don't want you to go away with those unanswered, especially if they pertain more so to your personal circumstances. Like I say, reach out and we can find a coordinator to assign to you, and she can assist you one-on-one. Or if you already have a coordinator, then of course she'd love to hear from you and help you with anything you need. So with that, I will hand it on over to Libby.
Okay.
Oh, and my name is Kim King. I'm one of the adoptive family coordinators. I never said that. Might be nice to know who this mystery voice is.
That's right.
Take it away, Libby.
Thank you. I'm just glad to see everyone settling in, and what I love about tonight's webinar is that we really get an opportunity to come together as a mix of people who are thinking about adoption, moving through the phases of adoption, researching, just taking on the next step. Or I also know there's some people on the call tonight who are listening in who have already completed adoptions, either as adoptive parents or as a birth mother or a birth family. And so it's really great to have all of you here, and that's why I really want to encourage your questions and comments tonight. Feel free. I mean, even if you think, oh, nobody else is thinking this, you know, bring it up because maybe other people need to be asking it. And that I know that our guest tonight, Rebecca, she's not shy, so feel free to just chime in with whatever comes to mind, what would help you. And like Kim said earlier, if there's something that maybe is more about your specific situation that we can't get into on the air tonight, still feel free to type it in because we can always follow up with you later and get some information to you so that you can know the best next step. But I'm excited to have our guest on tonight because we got to do a webinar with her a couple of years ago. I think it was actually just over 2 years ago. And we had met with Rebecca right before her daughter had turned 1 year old, and so she'd already been moving through her open adoption plan for her daughter for over a year because she knew the adoptive parents before she gave birth. But Rebecca's joining us tonight for sort of a catch-up, but also just to give us her perspective again, but now she has an added couple of years onto things. Plus, it's just been amazing to see her voice and adoption heart grow to help more women who are thinking about or choosing adoption or who have chosen it before, but also to see where her personal story has led some of her passions that she's working towards in her future as far as her education and her future career and where she'd like to see her story used. So, Rebecca, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
As I said before, I know you're pretty open, and so I think a good place to start would just be probably to warm up and look back at what brought you to adoption and how it was that you came to the adoptive parents that you ended up choosing for your daughter Lauren.
Okay. I was probably about 5 months pregnant. I was over at my mom's friend's party, and I actually met this woman named Dana Walker. And she was actually doing foster care, and she was thinking about adoption. And I wasn't really thinking about adoption at the time. I was just kind of seeing where my faith kind of takes me, wherever it goes, if it falls on my lap. If it does, it does. If not, I'm meant to be a mother. So I had actually a crazy dream that night where I was looking at a baby and her on a television screen, and I was popping back and forth from Las Vegas and Texas, and I called her and I was crying. I'm like, "You're meant to have my child." And she said, "Thank you so much that you're thinking highly of me, but, I wasn't really thinking of a newborn, but, this may be the opportunity to really look into adoption." So she was the first one to actually tell me and talk to me, maybe you should look into it further. So my Auntie Mary actually gave me a couple of lists, which actually Lifetime Adoption was on. And I went on to Life Adoption's website, and you know what? It was really simple. It was easy. I ended up getting on the phone with Diane, and they sent me, I think, like 40 to 60 packets. I know there was one couple before that I was kind of hanging on to, but they just stopped talking to me. In an email, they were actually attached to a different birth mom. So everything happens for a reason. But when I met Polly and Rex, it was kind of like I want to say like an interview of like you're actually dating someone. It was a really totally different experience where you're kind of asking questions that you would probably ask a significant other. So how would you raise your children, and what religion are you? And so we kind of just fell in love with each other and had the same goals and values that we wanted to put in our children. And they were actually going to come out for my birthday, October 30th, to meet me. And they had a little surprise where I matched with them because my mom wanted to hold off on the matching to make sure that I was committed, because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to pull out on the last minute. I didn't want any heartbreak or anything like that. But I told my mom that night, crying, like, me and Polly just had a really in-depth conversation, and it was perfect. So we met them within that following week. I know Polly was just nervous. I know we were sitting there staring at each other, didn't even eat, just so excited to talk with each other. So just after that, I had Lauren December 28th. The night before, my mom called her probably 1 a.m. in the morning, and they took the first flight off. As soon as they landed, actually, is when I had Lauren. And within the 72 hours, I think it was just really incredible where Polly and Rex got to meet my inner circle, and we just got to bond the very next few days.
I came across, I think you and I had talked about this before, so I hope I'm not surprising you, Rebecca, but you and I had connected on Facebook, and, we have the whole, everybody does the time hop flashback things, and there was actually one, because we just went through her third birthday, and so some of these posts and memories came back up, and I loved this post that you had actually put up. It sounds like probably right before you went into labor, talking about, I realize I'm doing the hardest decision of my life, but also the best and happiest decision I could ever do in my life, and just talking about your support group and your feeling that God has made this little plan as perfect as possible, and just actually having excitement for Rex and Polly to become parents, and your trust in them to take care of your baby girl. Do you remember that moment? Because we also had a really great question come in here too, talking about, what happened in the hospital that may have made things easier for you or better, or that maybe you wish would have happened, or things that maybe Rex and Polly did specifically that just helped bond your relationship. Do you remember, like, heading into that, going into labor? Because a lot of women struggle in those moments thinking, I really like these people, I do trust them, but can I actually go through with this? And how that hospital experience actually helped you at all.
It definitely helps me out a lot, those 72 hours where Las Vegas has that you can't sign the adoption papers. Me, Polly, and Rex, I think it was like a week before I was coming close due, and she's like, well, are you sure you want to have Lauren with you? We can just leave her in the nursery. She'll be taken care of. And I was kind of thinking about that because I know they were a little bit nervous about me holding her and spending time with her, because I know a lot of birth mothers who end up holding their baby and getting that bond. They have a different mindset where, you know what, maybe I can do this, I can be a mom, and just all these thoughts come racing into your head. When I first had Lauren, my mom was crying when I sat there holding her. I'm like, the first reaction, oh my gosh, she's so tiny. I think Rex and Polly are going to love her. And we took that picture right there for them. But the weirdest thing is I felt like I didn't have a mother instinct, and I think I was more of a pleaser where I wanted to please everyone else but myself, and I was trying, I guess, to think where I'm not the mom, but spending time with her was really difficult for me. But it was the last night that I had Lauren that kind of changed my mind, where I knew I was making the right decision, where I had her over at a friend's house, actually Chandra's house, and she was crying for 7, 8 straight hours. I fed her. I changed her diaper like 5 times and just did not know why she was crying. And finally I turned on my phone on YouTube, Josh Turner, because for some reason that was my favorite artist at the time, and I hot pancakes. And I was singing, and I fell asleep with her on my lap, and I text my mom saying, like, I can't do this. But at the time, she thought maybe I couldn't go through with the adoption, but, like, I can't do this when I'm trying to make a living for myself going to school. I'm living on my mom's couch right now. That's no way to live, as well as a baby is really expensive. I think, I don't want to put, like, the financial expense out there, but, like, flying from a different state and trying to settle with a baby for 3 days, I think it was over $500 with the bottles and the diapers. So it is very, very expensive to have a newborn, and especially with, I talked to a birth mother about this, even with insurance, that epidural was like $4,000. So to just think about the priorities and just living with a child, I couldn't provide for her, and the best thing that I could do is give her a family that can provide everything that she needs and wants and more. I know I think that was the hardest thing for me to understand, that I couldn't provide to be her mom. I think that's what still hurts me to this day. Like, I know I'm making a living for myself, and I am only 22 years old, but sometimes I feel like I want to be 40 when I had her, so I could have provided for her.
I love, because going back to her birthday that just passed, and you had posted something I just thought was so strong, because what I hear in your story is that you're not in denial about the challenges and wishing that things had gone differently, because I do think that in order for people to understand adoption better, they have to grow a compassion for the fact that, you know, I can't think of any woman who grows up thinking, I'm going to become pregnant with a child that I'm not ready to raise. And when you face that, and then you decide, what am I going to do from here for this child, and then you find a family that you connect with and you build a relationship with, and it starts turning into something positive, it still doesn't take away the fact that you wish you hadn't gone through this. But I know now after 3 years, you know, you look at this little girl and you just, I'm sure it's probably hard to imagine the world without her. But I loved what
I'm sorry.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh,
I
no, you're
was
okay.
going to say I couldn't imagine without her. And when I found out I was pregnant, my mom was sitting there, well, what do you want to do? And within my faith, it wasn't to do abortion or anything like that. So I'm like, all right, well, let's go for it. So I couldn't have imagined like her face, her eyes. Like I couldn't have gone a day without knowing Lauren.
Mm-hmm. I love what you typed a few weeks ago. You said, I texted my mom at 3 a.m. in the morning that I couldn't go through with this. Little did my mom know what I meant. I meant I could not be Lauren's mom at this time and found the perfect parents to give Lauren the opportunity to grow and reach her full potential. In her few short years of being here, she has touched many lives, and I can't imagine where she would be without her mom and dad. I'm grateful every day for this little girl. I love her so much and hope she has an amazing birthday.
Sorry.
You're okay. What I also loved about that, because what we get an opportunity to talk about tonight is just what open adoption looks like to you, and that I had asked Polly, you were talking about Polly, the adoptive family you chose, and she had posted on Lauren's birthday, almost what I love about this is because you're both coming from this place of, I never imagined going through this, and now I'm in it, and it's beautiful, and we're just making it ours. And she posted, and I had asked her if I could share this, and she had said, today on Lauren's 3rd birthday, we got to FaceTime call with her amazing birth mom, Rebecca. Lauren did all the talking on our end, so Rebecca got to hear her chat away while sipping some milk and then got to answer questions about her puppy. A toddler FaceTime success for sure. When beginning our adoption journey, we had so many fears and concerns. We were entering into such unfamiliar territory. We didn't know who we were meant to become parents to, and were worried about what each person's roles might look like. All I can say now is open adoption is a beautiful, wonderful thing, and we thank God for bringing us and Rebecca together. Lauren will always know where she came from and that her story is special and full of unconditional love.
They are amazing. I think why we have such a really great bond is we were honest from the start, where they knew what I wanted and I knew what they wanted.
That's a really good way to put it. I think I know that we often encourage people, especially in that first conversation with each other one-on-one, to just lay it out there and talk about, okay, let's not hedge around, and just ask about the weather and, how you feel and stuff. Let's actually talk about what we want and where we're going with this. Do you remember those early days when you were starting that relationship with them? I mean, I know you talked about meeting them in person and taking that leap. So many people get nervous about the very first phone call. Can you even remember that?
Yeah, I remember the first phone call. I was a little bit, I think, how do you say this? I was interviewing them, and it was like a hardcore interview. Like, how are you guys? And, okay, so you guys live in Fort Worth, Texas. Oh, what are your occupations? And a bunch of really in-depth questions. And I even asked the silliest question. It was like a scenario if your kid, it was either like knocked a lamp off or did something behavior-wise. How would you discipline your child? And I don't know where that came from, but like me and Polly just laughed and just discussed some behavior things. And she's actually a former special education teacher, and my mom's a kindergarten teacher, so we just had a lot to bond over.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a lot of texting. And I know that's kind of your guys' rules, that you guys aren't really supposed to give out like information or anything like that, but we ended up emailing more and then texting more, where I was at Tivana working full-time and going to school full-time, so like with my baby belly I'd be taking selfies and they would take selfies too, so it was really, really cool.
Well, and just, I mean, to clarify, I mean, Kim, you and I could both talk about it, but so much has changed even in the last few years with text messaging just opening up and making that connection more casual and easy to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And people having email on their phone makes it easier for them to respond sooner and get to know each other faster, I think. And so it's not that we're saying, don't share your personal information. It's more, share it with the right people.
Yes.
Because then that bond, that connection, that friendship that you're building is more organic, like it would be with anyone that you allow into your life. But certainly because you had to think about your baby and a due date around the corner, and I've got to make sure I get my questions answered and have peace of mind about this, or I'm not moving forward.
Most definitely.
And I mean, did you still text with them, right?
Yeah, they do more texting than I do, which is which is incredible. I'm always getting pictures and videos. Before they uploaded on Facebook, actually, I don't know if you saw, they got a horse that she like sits on, like bounces up and down, and it goes forward. But they usually send me stuff first and then post it on Facebook. But they're actually like right on top of it. I think that's amazing that they do that. I don't think in open adoption you don't have to do it every day unless you want to, but I think a birth mother just receiving that video or that text message, hey, we're thinking about you, I think it really brightens a birth mother's day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, and I have some pictures you had sent me of some, now that she's a toddler, well, she's 3 now,
Yeah.
that she's, you know, making little handprint things and starting to make little crafts, and
Yeah.
that you had shared just what that means to you, to feel so included. Have you ever talked with birth mothers who don't want as much of a connection as you wanted?
Yeah, I've, in the beginning, there was a couple of birth moms who didn't really want to hear my story when I was over at Catholic Charities. There's once a month birth mom support group, and there was one woman in particular who I was showing pictures, and then I have to beg my adoption family to give me pictures. So I'm a little bit careful on who I share with, because of course I don't want to overwhelm or make a birth mom feel bad that they don't have the same relationship. I know I've talked to a few birth moms to maybe help get that connection with their adoptive families, to maybe, if they want to move forward in open adoption, to see if their adoptive families would be open to that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and I love the way you put that, because, I mean, it's so true. No two adoptions are the same. And what I love seeing is, over time, that connection between birth parents and adoptive parents can be like any relationship, where sometimes you're in touch more than others. Sometimes there might be a gap. You know, as you maybe go through school, there might be times when you're hitting finals and you're just like over your head and not even able to respond, you know, back or something as fast as you are today. And then there may be other times when you're just on it and more available, just, I mean, like any relationship. But certainly when there are adoptions that are laid out a little differently than what you have, I know what you're saying about having to be sensitive to not everyone is there, but that's also something that's a passion of yours too, because we were talking about, you actually have been in college, and you're getting closer to your 4-year degree, but you have a passion for adoption law, right?
Yes.
And what's your vision? You were telling me something earlier about how you would actually like to advocate for the open adoption agreements.
What I thought was really cool is when I went through the adoption process, I was thinking about becoming a lawyer, but I didn't know what kind of lawyer, because my uncle Ira is actually in like the gaming law. So I kind of fell in love with the adoption process, and I ended up making my own contract with Polly, Rex, and Lauren, in that the attorney actually looked it over and just kind of corrected it and put in a little bit of, I guess, lawyer talk. But I kind of really like how I could help birth moms and adoptive families. I actually went to see one court adoption finalization, and that was a really, I guess, joyful moment that I would like to see more in my life, where I would like to help birth moms and adoptive families come together, where I could do that, as well as I really like contracts where I actually share my contract a lot if people are looking about open adoption, to just have that in place. You never know what goes on or anything like that, and just to be safe and caution. I know even though I really trust Polly and Rex, they felt that it was a good thing to kind of put down on what we wanted. But my vision would be for people to see adoption in a different light, where you can see your baby and that you guys can live in, I guess, one unit where it doesn't have to be so secretive. I know there was a woman at Catholic Charities, 50 years old, and her, she said she wished there was open adoption her age, that she didn't even get a choice. So with the new generation coming out, I would love for people to know what's going on in the adoption world, and that it can be a really beautiful thing.
And I agree with you. That's sort of our heart too, and that's why we work so hard to make sure that the adoptive parents who come in are educated about what open adoption can be, so that by the time they're chosen by a child's birth mother, they can really create something that's unique between them and what works for both of them mutually. Because I think, going back to what you said earlier, that's really, I would say, what a big message that I get out of your story is just that you created something that works for you, and Rex and Polly were able to create something that works for them. And you were all on the same page.
Yeah. I definitely want to say to, like, the adoptive families and birth mothers who are looking to never settle for less, and to look for and really know what you want, and to talk to either that person and get down to deep on what you want for your children, because I think that's really important to build that foundation and that friendship, because for an open adoption, it is a pretty long haul, and I know me, Polly, and Rex, even when Lauren turns 18, that I'll still be invited to, like, Christmas and birthday parties. So it is a real special thing.
Absolutely. So you had told me how much they love sending pictures, and so some of these darling photos, the audience is saying, oh my gosh, she's adorable. Do you share these updates with other people in your life, like your friends, your family? Are they kind of all in on this too?
Oh yeah, they love pictures. That's why I had to tell my Grammy to lay off on the sharing on Facebook, because my outside family, my dad's side supports me. My mom's side, Not unfortunately, but my grandma and grandpa in their 80s and have a different mindset about adoption where it's close, so they have a little different mindset. But on the other side of the family, they love to see pictures and videos. My inner circle of really close friends, if I would have ended up pursuing being a mother to Lauren, I have two friends that I've grown up in preschool who would have been the godfathers. They love to see pictures. I know Polly and Rex probably have them on Facebook, but I have a lot of friends and family behind me and love to see what's going on in the Lauren world.
Mm-hmm. That's neat. The Lauren world. That's funny. Maybe for those women who don't have as much support, what would you suggest to someone who maybe is kind of going at open adoption alone? What would you have to share with a woman who's saying, man, I really wish that other people would get it when I would show them a picture of my daughter or my son?
You know what, I had a real hard time in the beginning as well too, is because when people would see on my phone a picture of Lauren, like, oh, you have a daughter, and most of the time I'd be like, oh, since I'm so up to date with Lauren, I'll be like, oh yeah, she's 3, she's good, and everything like that. And then most of the time, some of the time where I'd be like, oh yeah, it's Lauren, open adoption, and they're like, open adoption, well, what's that? And they kind of look at me funny. But I think you have an amazing support group at Lifetime Adoption, as well as there are a lot of birth mom support groups. During my birth, during my pregnancy, I had my mom and my sisters, but my mom's side of the family, they didn't even want to hug me at all. They didn't really want to see me. It is really hard, but you have a support system, whether you know it or not. I'm open for calls, anything you want. I know if you want to ask Lifetime Adoption, email them for my number. I'm here for you, and there's a lot of other people that are here for you too.
I love that you brought that up, because that is something, I mean, not only that we're here, but that we also have licensed counseling and other women who've chosen adoption like you. And I know we've heard from some of those women before on other webinars, and I just think sometimes whether you're researching or if you're walking through after you've done adoption, it helps to talk to somebody who's been there. And the same thing for those of you listening who are thinking about adopting a child as an adoptive parent, you know, that we have that same resource available to you where you can talk to other parents who have gone through the process, and then also get the benefit of learning through webinars and stories like this, where you get the other perspective and hearing from a birth mother's side of things. And I think just the whole thing, adoption is something, like you said, there's some women, like you had the older women in your group, and the older generation's adoption was very secret, but that we're in a new era now, and the biggest way to break out of that is to just talk about it. And so even though things have changed, people still walk around sometimes keeping it quiet. And when you can actually talk to other people and know that you're part of a community that's touched by adoption, it helps you not feel so alone. I put up here, Rebecca, the picture that you had sent me. Now, these are Lauren's little hands, right, making a reindeer?
Yeah, for Christmas they sent me some new photos and that little drawing that she did in her handprint.
So do you keep the drawing out? Do you keep it in a keepsake box?
I have it in a keepsake box right now. Hopefully when I get my own apartment, I'll frame it, which I don't think a lot of parents do, but I get far and few, so it's it's like gold to me. So but it's in a little keepsake box, and once in a while I'll go in and look through my pictures, and I'll go to my boyfriend like, look at this, look at that. So.
Well, and you were telling Kim and I before we opened up tonight's webinar just how much this simple little handmade card by a 3-year-old just touched you, because you know, most birth mothers that we work with and that I've met outside of our program too, there's not a day that they forget that they gave birth to this child, that they forget that they are a mother, even though they're not, you know, everyday mom and dad, and that they provided parents to be that role for their child. You still have a daughter out there, and so getting this little handmade card made you feel more recognized, more included. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, I felt when I first saw this, it melted my heart, because I know, as we were talking about, I feel more parents receive these kinds of gifts because they're going every day to school, and you have Christmas ornaments that you get. So to receive something like this from Lauren, it was really special and kind of made me feel like a little parent at the time.
So we had a question, and I'm glad that she brought it up again, because I had seen it earlier and I really did want to bring it up. I'm not sure how specific you'll be able to get with your advice or your answer to this woman, but this is an adoptive mom, and they have a 5-year-old son, and they have been wanting to get together and meet with his birth mother, especially because his biological grandparents would also love to meet him, but they want to honor their agreement to wait for his birth mother to be the first one to have a visit with him, but she's not ready yet. And so they were asking, how can we help her prepare for a deeper relationship or to meet with us? Do you remember from your experience what that was like? Maybe, I know that you had built a connection before Lauren was born, and then at the time of her birth you had built that even more, but then there was a time that went between her birth and when you got together again. Do you remember how you maybe prepared yourself for the visit?
When I prepared for the visit, I remember talking a lot with a lot of other birth moms and experience, because I know it's a heart-racing experience. Like, I know she was 3 months at the time, but it's like, well, what are we going to talk about? Do they still like me? And am I annoying them too much? Am I texting too much? So I think by preparing is they actually sent me like little emails of like, oh, can't wait to see you, and kind of prepared, I guess, the day for me, and said, hey, do you want to go to the zoo? So I think within that situation, I think as the birth mother, if I wanted to be the first person that I wasn't ready, I feel like I would want the adoptive family to honor that. I know the birth grandparents would really want to see them. I know my Grammy has been dying to see Lauren, but it's the relationship with you and your birth mom, and if you really want that relationship with her, you kind of want to stick to her side. I know Polly and Rex, they had a hard time with my dad coming in and trying to be in that spotlight, but Rex and Polly were always on my side, which made me feel they were trustworthy and that they're in my best interest and that they're thinking of my feelings. So maybe to prepare her birth mom, I know you really want to see her really bad, maybe send her emails or little letters here and throughout. Hey, just thinking about you in our prayers. If you want to send a little email or a letter, be happy to hear from you, because it might take small steps. I know this past year I've been having a little bit of a rough patch for me where I haven't been talking to Polly and Rex a lot, where I just kind of wanted to I guess, get away. Where I haven't been wanting to hear that much, but they just, I know they backed away a little bit and kind of sent like few here and there. I think it's just starting small and gaining her trust.
Well, and knowing that, because this photo we're looking at here, this was actually your most recent visit, but this wasn't your first visit.
No.
And I think that it's worth it to just say there's going to be times. What I loved, and it was last year that we got to hear from Tammy's story, and that she talked about over the years the same idea. Sometimes I wanted to hear more than I did at other times, and that's okay. And the fact that you know they're available to you, and they're going to honor and respect what you're comfortable with right now, and not push you, but also still let you know in truth, we're still here and we love you and we want whatever you want. And to just walk in balance, you know. When you have those hard times, Rebecca, what are the things that help you? Is it a hard time because you're reflecting on the adoption, or is it just sort of life right now, including that story, is also just a little much?
I think sometimes it's too good to be true, where it's kind of overwhelming for me to think about, where I do get a little bit depressed at times, where I do want to be happy, and I kind of want to put on this face like, oh, it's amazing, it's beautiful, but you know, I wish sometimes they live in the same state where I can just drive down and say hello, because like I do miss them a lot, and sometimes I do have these feelings where I just feel like crying when I see a picture of Lauren. Not where I'm, I guess, not feeling so sad that I chose chose the adoption, but that I couldn't provide for her, that I couldn't be her mother at that point in time, that still looking at my life, well, I'm still in school, I'm still working, I just have to remind myself that I have certain goals that I need to obtain to have my own family one day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's such an honest answer, to just talk about the fact, you know, that it's not about regret. It's about, I mean, all of us probably have something in our stories that, you know, we come to peace about, we come to terms with, and we may even be healed, but that doesn't mean sometimes that when you bump the scars, they don't hurt a little, or that you wish that things could have been different. But you've made the most out of it, and that's really, when you think about any life decisions, that's what it's about, is how can I make this into a healthy thing moving forward? But I don't think that that ever means anyone expects that you're going to look back and 100% of the time just be in total delight over what happened, you know.
I totally
agree.
agree.
An honest reaction. So you had talked about, I'm going to bring up this photo here, going to this pottery place.
Yeah.
And so was this was your visit last summer, right?
It was it, oh yeah, sorry, it's 2015.
I know, it's hard to remember.
Yeah, it was summer 2014, I believe. Yep, July 30th, 2014. They came down to Las Vegas to spend a couple of days. I know you asked a certain question beforehand. I'm trying to remember on not how to prepare myself, how it was spending time with the adoption family, where we were talking about casual leaves. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I forgot what the question was.
Well, we were talking a little bit ago just now about how do you prepare for those visits, or maybe what tips do you have for handling them, because I know they do come with mixed emotions. I'm sure that when you go home, you're thinking, man, I miss them. Like, I wish that I could see them more often. But the reality, just when we have any loved ones in life, sometimes distance separates us, or just time, availability. But you had shared with Kim and I before we began tonight that one of the things you've observed that's really worked is just more a casual interaction, and being able to have, like you were referring to them as kind of like meet and greets. Like, it wasn't always this very formal, we're here for one reason only kind of thing. It was, we're friends and we're getting together. We're not just staring at a child for 2 hours and talking about old times. That it's like any visit with family or friends or someone you care about, that you're spending time together. And I loved what you said about how Polly had planned the day. And I think, honestly, that is a great tip. If you're planning a visit, maybe for the first couple times even, or every time you get together with your child's birth mother, if you have visits as part of your contact, is have a plan so that you're not feeling so much like, when does this start and when does this end? And I have a child on a nap schedule, but I don't want her to think that we're just ditching her, like, have a plan. We're going to go to the zoo from 10 to 2 or something like that. But you talked about coming in separate cars so that you could go to the event and then go to your own spaces after.
Yeah. So what I was really fortunate for this summer, last summer, 2014, where I actually got to plan all the festivities, where we started at Sunset Park, and we actually took a couple of pictures of the one that you saw in the beginning, because I just kind of wanted photos for myself, and kind of just new updated photos with our little family. And then Lauren went and took a nap, and then we went in Las Vegas. It's called Town Square. There's like a little pottery place. And as you mentioned before, the little deer that I received, I was a little bit spending in mother mode, where I kind of wanted a craft from her. So we went to the pottery place, and we got that little plate, and my mom actually helped put Lauren's handprint on there, and then everybody's fingerprint was somebody. So 4 of my sisters were on there, and then I think one of my sisters, oh no, my mom was the grass and the little stem, and then Polly was the flower, and then Rex was like the bee, and then I think I was the frog, or the you know what, I don't really remember, but I think it was really but it was super sentimental, and something to have like that with me for the rest of my life. Hopefully it doesn't get broken anywhere, but it was a really great experience to sit there, and Rex actually painted a piggy bank train for Lauren, so we did our own stuff and then added that to the piece. So it was a really fun experience.
Have all your prints. That's neat. What a good idea. I could see, even if you had, if we're speaking to someone who doesn't have visits together, maybe they're just not comfortable with visits yet, or they're just not able to have them for whatever reason, but that if you are sharing updates, that sometimes, I know from working with other mothers, that getting more than just a low-quality text photo or a selfie, actually getting a print, or like a handprint on a piece of pottery, something she can touch and hold and move around her house without glaring at a phone the whole time, is often precious and well received. And I could see, even if she wasn't able to put her fingerprints into something like this, that they could still make a piece of art about their family to send to her too. Like, we're all in this together. This is a piece of all of us. It's just another great idea how to show her you care too.
I think that's definitely, I agree with that, with the adoptive family sending actual prints, because I know a lot of people are into technology these days, but when Polly and Rex, when I get those physical, those prints of Lauren, I go race out, try to find a frame, and I put them all over my mom's house. We have so many pictures up. But I think it's really a benefit to the birth mom to have something to hold, and whether it be a picture or maybe a handprint on a picture, on a piece of paper, and the age, like 2 or something.
So now that she's 3, and you got together last summer when she was 2.5-ish, do Rex and Polly refer to you with a nickname? Does she call you Rebecca? How does she understand who you are as much as she can for her age right now?
What I have known, Polly found some books. You'd have to ask her what the names are, but she knows like I'm the tummy mommy, where I carried her and then gave her to her mom and dad. But I'm Becca. I'm not mommy. I'm not raising her or taking care of her. So I think that title definitely goes to Polly in that role. So I'm fine being called Becca. I think it was the cutest thing when she started to talk, where it's like Bika. But now she's I guess she is now more, knowledgeable on who I am, because Polly and Rex do prayers every night, and she has a picture in her room of me, and Polly will point to her like, we painted Becca. So she has like an idea, and which I think is honestly really good for open adoption, because it's not going to come out of the blue. When she's 8, asking probably, I don't know, something on TV like, oh, Mom, did I come from your tummy? Oh, no, you came from Becca's, remember? Oh, okay. It's going to be so casual, which I appreciate.
So what is, sometimes we get to talk about this with adoptive parents, but it just came to mind that we don't often ask this question of birth parents. But one of the things I think that a lot of people fear is that when they choose adoption, whether they adopt a child or they choose adoption for a child, they place a child, is that they think, I'm going to wake up every single moment, every single day. I'm going to know that adoption is part of my story, and like it's going to be all that I ever think about. Like I think that they just fear, is my life ever going to just feel like an average day, you know, where I get up, I do my thing, and I'm not just constantly aware that I have a special story that includes adoption. I mean, what is an average day like for you, since, you know, maybe not within the first few months, but just, you know, looking back at like the last year or two, and you're going to school and working, and I mean, is that a fear that maybe you had initially? Like, am I always 100% of the time going to be fixed on this, or are there, you know, average moments in your life where you're like, it's not really at the front of my mind?
I think I'm unaware that I do this, but I know my family kind of tells me it all the time, where I kind of spit up one, where I'm like, oh, did you see this new picture, everything, but she's kind of integrated in my everyday life, where I'm not thinking too much about it, because I'm kind of going every day during my life, where I'm doing the substitute teaching tomorrow, where I start school next week, where I think my family was a little bit scared in the beginning, where I would be fixed and obsessed on the adoption. But I think for now, since I've turned into such a positive way, where it's kind of like in my life, where I'm doing the webinars and talking to birth moms, it's not in front of my head as a negative. It's more as a positive and just outbringing it, embracing it.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard from other mothers that sometimes they love, in a sense, they love thinking about their child and their adoption story because it's this motivation to do more with their own story. Like, I didn't go through that experience to just stay where I was. Like, I'm going to make my goals happen because essentially, I mean, you're going to grow up and she's going to grow up and you're going to be a role model for Lauren.
That's cool to hopefully when she's older and her where it won't be like, why did you give me up? Like, oh, you gave me such a beautiful family and you did something with your life. Where my birth mom went to college and got a career, where she still shares her life with me, where it's not going to be negative thoughts.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's what I know. I hear from adoptive parents. You know, I think it's kind of like when any major milestone happens in your life, you're aware of it, and for many of us, it becomes part of how we use our story to help others and help ourselves and grow and become better. What about, have you ever spoken with a woman who maybe is having trouble finding healing or peace about making her adoption decision for her child? Like, what would you say to a woman who's really stuck in the grieving process and not finding hope after that?
I think she just has to find herself. I think I know I was a little bit lost after I had Lauren, where I was trying to get back into volleyball and it wasn't really working for me. So I think she just needs to look into herself and maybe find a hobby that she's good at, and she needs to set goals, which I'm happy to help with if they need to talk to anyone. Don't go through it alone. I know I've spent a lot of time where I'm in bed alone with myself and then just having just depressing thoughts. You need to get it out, and you need to go out and socialize. I know it's a really hard thing to do, and I know it's a really hard thing to do. I've had a lot of birth moms that I had this one incident where a birth mom was screaming at me on the phone. It was like where she loaned out her adoption where she didn't want to sign, and she's yelling at me, how could you do this? How could you give your child up? And she ended up keeping her child, but you know, it is a really hard thing. And as a birth mom, you know, to give your child this amazing opportunity to have a family, because Lauren has the world. I would have never imagined this. You just have to go back to your goals and what you're searching for, and you gave this beautiful girl, boy, like a chance. Like I remember for her second birthday when Polly and Rex flew me out here, toys on toys, and I'm sitting there helping with Lauren's grandma putting it together, and I just dropped the toy and I started crying. I'm like, I couldn't even imagine, like, her second birthday. Where would I even have had it? Where would I have been? And just, she has so much going for her, and because of this adoption, it's been a miracle. And with lifetime adoption, with your birth mom scholarship, I just wouldn't have continued on, and it's amazing. And you just have to look at the positives and embrace it, and look for people to talk to.
I appreciate you saying that, and I actually really appreciate that it chokes you up, Rebecca. I know. I know how meaningful it is to you and to most people who are touched by such a personal story through adoption. And I'm just grateful, and we keep getting comments just about what a remarkable woman you are. And and your heart, and just how much it helps to just have your perspective and to hear your voice on the subject and just your experience too. But I love what you said about setting a goal and finding something you're good at, because it really, something you said just now just made me think, what you're giving Lauren is different than maybe what you dreamed you could give her, and that being reminded of, gosh, where would I have hosted a birthday party, or how would I get her these amazing toys or these beautiful portraits, every 6 months or whatever. But you're able to give her something different. It's a different dream, a different reality, and I think that that's what open adoption can do, is to help two people who didn't have the dream initially come together and create a new story for this child, and not deny each other's roles in how that came together, how that story played out for their family, but to embrace it. It's really the most you can do, especially in those times when it really does just choke you up, because it's an authentic story. It's a real, true story that is still happening. But I can't wait to see what more you do with it. And I love that you took advantage of the scholarship, because so many women don't. And it's there for a reason, because adoption is as much about providing your child with a future as it is creating one for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's any birth moms right now who have gone, is it just for lifetime adoption birth moms, or?
Nope, it's open to any woman who's chosen adoption as a birth mother, and it's there, and it varies time to time, like how much it can be and stuff. But we love to see people taking advantage of the educational scholarships, because we know that there is more than just the unplanned pregnancy and the moment the adoption happens. There's life after that, and there are goals to go after.
Well, I'm definitely grateful that you guys care about the birth mother's education. I know I've been receiving it for quite some time, and it does help out a lot.
Well, Rebecca, I'm just so glad to have you on tonight and to sort of catch up and know how things have been. And you've answered, just even without us even having to pose the question, you've answered a lot of the questions that got typed in tonight, so that was really cool.
Okay.
And, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up tonight?
If anybody has any questions or concerns, I'm free. If they want my email or anything like that, I'm welcome, open arms, and hope that everyone has a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we would be glad, and there's so many people like Rebecca, but also just your generous offer to help talk one-on-one with people who have questions too is just so valuable. We really appreciate that. And so if any of you have questions or feedback after tonight's webinar, you're welcome to write directly to us. If you want to connect with someone one-on-one, with Rebecca or with an adoptive family or another birth mother, just let your coordinator know or let me know. You can always write to me directly, Libby@lifetimeadoption.com. That's Libby @lifetimeadoption.com. And I'm just thankful for all of your participation tonight, and look forward to meeting again soon. We have some more webinars planned around the corner, but this was a really great way to open up the year and just focus on the blessings and the realities and the amazing possibilities that can come out of a heart willing to explore open adoption. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing tonight.
Well, thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Rebecca.
And we will talk with you soon. I'm going to pop up a slide here. In case any of you have questions or don't yet have a coordinator, you can always call us, 1-800-923-6784. And you can always write to adopt@lifetimeadoption.com or shoot your coordinator an email or a text. So, and if we couldn't get to your question tonight, I just want to thank you for typing it in, and we will look at those. And try and get you some information later, or you're welcome to reach out and explore more and get more information. So, Kim, thank you for feverishly typing with the people in the background, too, because we did have a lot of information happening there. But we will meet with all of you again very soon, and we hope you have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.